A devastating earthquake has just struck. The city is collapsing into an abyss. Entire mountains, torn from their foundations, crumble as if they were made of paper. The earth crashes in on itself. Humans struggle with all their might, but their fight is useless against the will of God. This is the great day of his wrath, painted in 1851 by John Martin, a monumental vision of the end of the world. This work is part of a triptych titled The Last Judgment, composed of 3 monumental paintings: the Plains of Heaven, the Last Judgment, and of course, the Great Day of His Wrath. Together, they represent 3 different visions of humanity's final destiny: paradise, judgment, and damnation. But beyond its religious theme, what turned these paintings into a phenomenon was the way they were presented to the public. They weren't just simple canvases hanging on a wall, they were events, experiences, theatrical spectacles designed to fully immerse the viewer. People paid to see them. They sat in rows of chairs, like in a theater, and waited in complete darkness. Suddenly, the lights would rise, and the apocalyptic scene would explode before their eyes. Using the latest technology of the time, specific parts of the paintings were dramatically illuminated: a lightning bolt tearing through the sky, a temple crumbling into the abyss, the figure of the whore of Babylon being dragged toward the mouth of hell. All of this was accompanied by sound effects and offstage voices reciting passages from the Bible. It was a sensory, religious, and emotional experience that left the audience in awe. And it worked. The success was overwhelming. The exhibition toured not only the United Kingdom, but also traveled enthusiastically across Europe and America. The Great Day of His Wrath became an iconic image, a visual reference for the final judgment that resonated deeply with the religious fears of the time. And if we think about it, this formula isn't so far from what we see today. Hollywood has inherited much of the drama that John Martin brought into art. Films like 2012, The Day After Tomorrow, Armageddon, or Don't Look Up don't just show us disasters. They also invite us to reflect on our destiny as a species. And that's exactly what Martin did, but with brushes instead of cameras. There's also an interesting parallel with the audience. Just as Victorian crowds flocked to see the final judgment as a spectacle, today millions fill cinemas to watch the earth be destroyed again and again. There is a fascination that endures, the beauty within chaos, the sublime within catastrophe. But Martin wasn't just trying to scare us. His triptych was also a spiritual journey. In the Plains of Heaven, he painted a peaceful paradise where the righteous find eternal rest. In the Last Judgment, he captured the decisive moment when souls are separated. And in the Great Day of His Wrath, he threw us into the very heart of divine punishment. This is the biblical passage that inspired John Martin to paint the Great Day of His Wrath. But his vision of the end of the world didn't come from scripture alone. It also came from what he saw with his own eyes. According to his son, Martin got the idea for this painting after a nighttime journey through the Black Country, an industrialized region of England shrouded in smoke, fire, and roaring machinery. A hellish landscape shaped by the Industrial Revolution. There, the sky turned red from the flames of the factories, and the earth trembled under the weight of progress. Martin wasn't imagining an apocalyptic fantasy. He was portraying a nightmare that already felt real. He lived in London himself, a city on the brink of collapse. In the heart of the 19th century, the British capital was a death trap. Disease spread rapidly. The River Thames, polluted by human and industrial waste, caused cholera epidemics that killed hundreds every week. The stench was so unbearable that, in 1858, it led to what is now known as the Great Stink. Faced with this horror, Martin tried to act. In the 1820s, he submitted a detailed proposal to Parliament to build a sewage system that would clean the city and save lives, but his proposal was rejected. Perhaps in response, years later, in 1841, he painted Pandemonium. In this work, inspired by a verse from John Milton's famous poem Paradise Lost, Satan looks out over his infernal city, crossed by a river of lava. But the most unsettling detail is the central building, a palace that, mysteriously, resembles the new British Parliament building, which at that time was still under construction, right beside the polluted Thames. For Martin, the final judgment was not only divine, it was also human. Modern cities, ruled by factories, pollution, and greed, were the real hell on earth. The great day of his wrath, along with the Last Judgment and the Plains of Heaven, were the last works John Martin completed before his death in 1854 after suffering a stroke. This was his farewell to the world, a monumental warning painted on canvas. Nearly 2 centuries later, his message still resonates. What we see is not just a celestial catastrophe, it is a consequence of our own actions. And perhaps by observing it closely, we are not looking at the past or a religious prophecy, but a mirror. After presenting these paintings, a question comes to mind. John Martin imagined the end of the world as an extremely dramatic event, just as the Bible describes it. But what about you? How do you imagine it? Do you think the end of the world will ever come? Will it be sudden or slow, divine or caused by humanity? I'd love for you to share your vision in the comments. I'll be reading every one of them. To wrap up, if you'd like to have this artwork in your home, I invite you to check out the link in the description. There you'll find a collection dedicated to John Martin, featuring his most powerful paintings, along with many other works by the great artists we explore on this channel. You can choose your favorite painting in the size you want and in different finishes. You even have the option to get a phone case so you can carry a work of art in your pocket while keeping your device protected. Shipping is free worldwide, and by making a purchase, you're helping me continue creating videos like this one. I don't accept sponsorships from third parties on this channel, so it's thanks to you that I can keep making this content. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. See you soon.